You don't feel sick. That's the first thing. You feel tired, maybe, a little achy behind the eyes. You think it's a long-haul flight catching up with you, or a bad night's sleep, or just one too many drinks at the hotel bar. Your body temperature has been quietly climbing for a few hours now, and you haven't noticed because a fever that starts at 99 degrees doesn't feel like anything except slightly wrong. You take 2 Advil, you drink some water, and you go to bed. This is day 3. You have at most 11 days left. Somewhere inside your bloodstream right now, a virus that has been killing humans since at least 1967 has already done the hard part. It got in. And it is not interested in being evicted. The movies gave you Outbreak. They gave you the monkey, the helicopter, the small town sealed off at the National Guard checkpoint, Kevin Spacey in a hazmat suit trying to beat the clock. The threat was always loud, always visible, always a thing you could see coming from a mile away. Marburg is none of that. Marburg is quiet. Marburg is a backache and a headache and a rash that looks like nothing, until the day it becomes everything. By the time it looks like what Hollywood promised, the internal damage has already been done. And before we're done, I'll tell you exactly what to do if any of this is happening to you right now. You were exposed. Maybe you visited a cave in East Africa without knowing it housed Egyptian fruit bats, the natural reservoir of this virus. Maybe you're a healthcare worker who had contact with a patient nobody had diagnosed yet. Maybe you're one of the German lab technicians in Marburg, 1967, dissecting what you thought were healthy monkeys imported from Uganda for polio vaccine research, which is exactly how this virus introduced itself to the world. However it happened, the virus entered your body through a mucous membrane, a small break in your skin, or direct contact with infected fluid, and then it went to work. Marburg is a filovirus, which means filament-shaped. Under an electron microscope, it looks like a shepherd's crook, or sometimes a figure 6. It is a single-stranded RNA virus, meaning its genetic instructions are encoded in a single thread, like a sentence instead of a book. And its first move inside your body is not to attack your organs. Its first move is to attack the cells your immune system needs to mount a defense. It targets dendritic cells and macrophages. Dendritic cells are your immune system's scouts, the cells that identify threats and relay that information to every other defensive layer in your body. Macrophages are the early responders, the cells that eat foreign invaders and fire off alarm signals called cytokines. The virus uses a protein on its surface called glycoprotein to bind to a receptor on these cells. Think of it as the key fitting a very specific lock. The moment that key fits, the virus is inside. And once it's inside your immune sentinels, it hijacks them. It replicates inside the very cells designed to stop it, and it blocks those cells from sending the alarm. Specifically, it suppresses something called interferon type I, your body's first emergency broadcast signal, the chemical equivalent of a fire alarm. The alarm never sounds. Your immune system doesn't know it's under attack. And the virus, multiplying now inside your own defense system, spreads freely through your blood. This phase lasts anywhere from 2 to 21 days. You feel nothing, or close to nothing. The virus is quietly building numbers in your lymph nodes, your spleen, the lymphoid tissues scattered through your body. Then, around day 3 to 5, your body finally notices something is catastrophically wrong, just not in the precise, targeted way it should. Your core temperature spikes, not gradually but suddenly, like a switch thrown. You're not climbing from 98.6 to 99 to 100 over the course of a day. You jump. Chills arrive, the uncontrollable kind, where your whole body shakes and your jaw clicks against itself. Deep muscle pain, clinicians call it myalgia, settles into your back, your thighs, your shoulders, the large muscle groups that weren't aching an hour ago. Severe headache that doesn't respond to anything. The kind that makes bright light feel like a personal grievance. A profound fatigue that isn't sleepiness, but something more chemical, more total, like your body has simply decided to stop cooperating. And you still have no idea what's happening. Between day 5 and 7, a rash appears across your trunk, your chest, your back, and sometimes your arms. One flat and reddish. Medicine calls it a maculopapular erythematous rash, where maculo means flat patches. Papular means slightly raised. Erythematous means red. It doesn't itch. It doesn't hurt. It spreads quietly, and it is your body's first visible announcement that the real damage has already begun underneath it. Because what the virus has moved on to by this point is where this disease truly lives. Your liver cells, hepatocytes, the actual working units of your liver, responsible for filtering your blood, producing the proteins that allow your blood to clot, and processing every toxin that passes through you, are now being infected and destroyed. Your liver enzymes spike in your bloodstream, which is what happens when liver cells rupture and release their contents into the surrounding fluid. Your liver isn't failing yet, but it is losing cells it will not recover. At the same time, the virus is reaching your endothelial cells, the thin layer of cells that lines the interior wall of every blood vessel in your body, from the aorta down to the finest capillary in your fingertip. These cells exist for one reason: to maintain the barrier between the blood inside the vessel and the tissue outside it. When Marburg infects and destroys them, that barrier begins to fail, not in one vessel, in all of them simultaneously. Fluid that belongs inside your circulatory system starts seeping into the spaces between your cells, into tissue, into cavities where it does nothing useful. Your blood pressure drops, not because you're bleeding from any visible wound, but because your vascular system is becoming a pipe with 10,000 slow leaks. Your heart accelerates to compensate, pushing harder against a system with progressively less volume to push. You are sweating, cold and hot at once, intensely, incoherently thirsty, and no amount of water is addressing it because the problem isn't input. It's that everything you take in is escaping somewhere it shouldn't be. The cytokine storm arrives around the same time. Cytokines are the chemical signals your immune cells use to coordinate a response, normally precise, targeted, calibrated. When your immune system is confronted by a threat it cannot control, it stops being precise and starts screaming every signal simultaneously and at maximum volume. Massive quantities of these chemicals flood your system, causing inflammation throughout your organs, accelerating the vascular leakage and producing the rigors, violent, full-body shaking that your muscles generate on their own, with no input from you, as your temperature swings between extremes. By days 7 through 9, your gastrointestinal tract has joined the collapse. The nausea you've had since day 3 becomes something else entirely. Vomiting is severe and doesn't stop. Diarrhea is profuse. Your intestinal lining, also coated in the endothelial and epithelial cells the virus has been systematically destroying, is beginning to break down. And the intestinal fluid you're losing in enormous quantities is not being replaced because your leaking vascular system cannot maintain the pressure needed to push fluids where they are needed. What happens next has a name: disseminated intravascular coagulation, DIC. Disseminated means scattered throughout the body. Intravascular means inside the blood vessels. Coagulation means clotting. Your coagulation cascade, the chain reaction system your body uses to form blood clots at sites of injury, protein activating protein, until you get a stable clot, has been triggered everywhere at once by the combination of massive cellular destruction and the inflammatory state the virus has created. Your body reads the chaos inside it as systemic injury and responds accordingly. Tiny clots, called microthrombi, begin forming inside the small blood vessels in your liver, your kidneys, your lungs, your brain. These microthrombi are blocking blood flow from the inside, starving the organs they run through of oxygen, one microscopic vessel at a time. The paradox, and it is a brutal one, is that forming all these clots is consuming the clotting factors your liver produces, the same proteins your body needs to stop bleeding anywhere else. And your liver, already sustaining direct viral damage, cannot replace them fast enough. So you are clotting inside your organs while simultaneously losing the ability to clot at all outside them. Your gums begin to bleed without provocation. IV insertion sites bleed and don't stop. Your urine turns dark, reddish-brown, as destroyed red blood cells pass through what remains of your kidney filtration. If the virus has reached your eye's conjunctiva, the thin membrane covering the whites of your eyes, you may bleed there too, turning the whites red from the inside. Your body is strangling itself with clots internally, while hemorrhaging from every surface that gets the chance. Your kidneys are failing. The microthrombi and the collapsed blood pressure have together cut off the steady, pressurized flow that the millions of microscopic filtering tubes inside your kidneys require to function. The cells lining those tubes are dying from oxygen starvation, a process called acute tubular necrosis. The waste products that should be leaving your body are accumulating in your blood. Your liver, losing hepatocytes faster than the virus is losing interest, can no longer regulate your blood glucose, clear toxins, or produce the clotting proteins that are now critically depleted. Your lungs are struggling under the inflammatory load and the fluid that has accumulated in the wrong places. Your brain is receiving less oxygenated blood. The confusion at the edges of your thoughts is not fear anymore, it's biochemical. Neurons not getting adequate oxygen don't produce coherent thoughts. They produce static. Some patients at this stage experience agitation, disorientation, something that looks from the outside like psychosis. Your brain is misfiring because it is running on fumes in a closed room. Most Marburg fatalities occur between day 8 and day 9. Your blood pressure has fallen to levels your heart cannot compensate for, regardless of how fast it beats. The medical term for this is hypovolemic and distributive shock, low blood volume because it has leaked into the surrounding tissue, and vessel walls that have lost the muscular tone needed to maintain pressure even with what's left. Your heart develops arrhythmias, irregular electrical signals that make the pumping inefficient, then erratic, then absent. Multi-organ failure is not a dramatic event. It is a sequence. Each system failing and pulling the next one with it, as quietly and methodically as dominoes, until the machinery that was running you stops completely. Your heart stops. You are dead 8 days after a fever you mistook for a bad night's sleep. Whoever cared for you in that final stretch without protective equipment is now carrying the same virus you did on day 1. Angola, 2004, a pediatric ward in Uyghur province in the north of the country. Children were dying one after another with the same rapid, devastating progression. Nurses and doctors began falling ill. The disease was spreading through the hospital itself, through contact with blood, through contaminated needles reused in an under-resourced ward, through the hands of family members caring for dying children without any protective gear. The outbreak had been running silently since October 2004. The CDC confirmed Marburg in March 2005, 5 months in. Of the 374 people confirmed infected, 329 died. 88%. There is currently no approved antiviral treatment for Marburg, no approved vaccine, though clinical trials for candidates were actively underway by 2025. What exists, and what genuinely moves the numbers, is aggressive early supportive care. The word supportive sounds like a consolation prize. It is not. It means large volume intravenous fluids to maintain the blood pressure your leaking vessels cannot sustain. Electrolyte replacement, because the vomiting and diarrhea have stripped your bloodstream of the minerals your heart needs to maintain its rhythm. Oxygen support as your lungs struggle under the inflammatory burden. Targeted clotting factor replacement in plasma in severe DIC cases to restore what the coagulation cascade has burned through. In Rwanda's 2024 outbreak, where patients received this care quickly and the medical infrastructure was better prepared, 15 of 66 patients died. Still a devastating number, but 15 out of 66 is not 88%. Right now, the United States has been managing the Marburg threat with a surveillance infrastructure that was significantly strained starting in early 2025, when the CDC was ordered to stop working with the World Health Organization. During the Ethiopia outbreak in late 2025, public health experts were openly asking how quickly the American system would detect a new emergence if those communication channels had been severed. That is a political conversation for people with more patience than this channel has. What is not political is the biology. The virus does not check your party registration before it binds to your macrophages. Subscribe to 189 Last Seconds.